July 19th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. Go down to the descriptions below. You can see where I thought I saw setups as well as where I took my trades. Took a total of 2 trades today, one right here and one right here. They're the boxed ones. These are where I thought I saw setups. And this is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. There wasn't really any market moving news today, but in the pre-market there was just the housing starts that came out at 5:30 Pacific Standard, and you could or could not, I guess, attribute this gigantic rally to that. I don't really see it as a reason that would cause this gigantic rally, but nevertheless, right when the pre-market was still in play and into the open, things rallied huge, chopped around, kind of grinded up, consolidated, sold off sharply right here, bought back up, tested the previous high, sold off, chopped around in this consolidation, rallied and came down. So overall it was kind of a big choppy trading range from here, and I would say about down here. And I guess it was kind of, I don't know if it was kind of an interesting day. There were a lot of crazy little choppy moves, but if you look at it was 46.08 all the way down to 45.92. So this entire movement was only 16 points. This is only 16 points of price action. So definitely it wasn't as if you can really score a home run and get like this gigantic move, but still there were some trades in there. So I'm going to go into this really quickly. Hopefully I don't drag it out. In the pre-market, things were just kind of consolidating and then it kind of rallied up. The first setup that I saw, and actually was the first trade that I took, was right here. There's a new high. It's the first entry long, second entry long. So when the second entry long formed, this is actually a decent signal bar, make a double top right here, but I wasn't really ready to take it because I was wondering if it was going to have a slightly better, I guess, confirmation. But when this candle formed and closed as the trigger bar, I was pretty confident that there was enough room to make it from this high to here. So what I did was I actually dropped my order one tick, not above this, but at the high of this double top, right back here, and hoping I'd get filled. I did get filled on this one right when it opened, and it kind of chopped around. I was a little nervous, wasn't wondering if I would get stopped out, if the EMA would hold, but it turned out it was okay. I was able to scalp out for a quick point right here. Then prices continue chopping. It is very tiny bars at this point. Comes down. At this point, right when price action gets to about here, I decide that there might be a slow, gradual slope going up. So I kind of drew this. I thought it might be a spike in a channel type of formation. This big spike, obviously it fits really nicely here, but there's no clear entries. And then it kind of hit this consolidation, more gradual bullish move up. Prices continue to move. I see kind of like a potential resistance here, but I don't really see a clear trading range. Comes back up, it tests again, but it does kind of confirm the bottom of this channel. So it looks like it's kind of like wedging, but then this channel is taking some precedence. Breaks out, and now it kind of doesn't follow the channel anymore. It breaks out of here, but this channel itself, I wasn't that, I guess, keen on it because it's too shallow. This angle is very, very low. You could make an argument that it's actually maybe a trading range from here to here, or maybe slightly higher up, but I wasn't sure. I just kind of saw it kind of wedging up because you could also say this is potentially the trading range here. So I did have that at one time on my chart, but I wasn't 100% sure. So I wasn't going to treat it with too much basis as taking a trade unless the setup was super clean and beautiful. The prices continue moving. I do see a second entry long here. The first entry long pulls back, makes a one attempt push up, and then right here is a potential second entry long. It formed below the EMA though, so I'm not really that excited about it. If it kind of closed above or at the EMA, then I would be a little bit more happy with it. So the setup isn't clean. And the signal bar was just, so-so. Turns out it would have worked out pretty well. However, you don't know that in real time. Then it flashes down. So from here, it's 46.0425, and up to here is 46.0620, 46.0650. So you have about a 2-point profit potential. If you try to go for any more, you would have gotten flushed out. Prices then continue to chop. Technically, you have a new high here. Well, if you count it here as first entry long, second entry long, and you count this as a new high, the first entry long, second entry long, the second entry long is a terrible signal bar. Nothing worth trading. I did see a new high here, first entry long. I saw this close and I thought this might be a second entry long. It's a good signal bar. Unfortunately, there's not enough room to this top of this range, or at least where I saw this potential resistance. So I wasn't too keen on it. Plus, these previous candles aren't very definitive. They're not quite dojis, except for perhaps this one, but they're not really definitively showing me any strong price action movement. Plus, EMA is flattening out, so I left it alone. Then prices continue moving, and I do see this. So I see this as a new low, first entry short, second entry short. I also think this is a lower high of the first entry long, second entry long. And if you notice, the second entry long hasn't failed yet because it's first entry long, second entry long, and it hasn't really broke down below this to cause a failure. So this could technically be a higher low. So it's a possible trade, but it didn't touch the EMA. And if it did touch, I thought it might have been a better trade. But if you're more aggressive, it's probably close enough. I didn't like the signal bar. It was kind of bearish to neutral. This is kind of a neutral signal bar, but it's in the bearish zone. If it was a little bit close, a little bit higher, then I trust that the failure of the second entry short would be a little bit stronger. Because technically, it is right at the top of this trading range, because this actually could be a fail breakout in reaction to this fail breakout. So fail breakout here, fail breakout here, it could be moving back into range. So that gave me a little pause. I wasn't really sure what I was seeing. So nevertheless, I just left it alone. Price is going to continue to move. It chops down. Now I see this, and I see potentially there's a line here. I wasn't confident that this was actually the top resistance yet, but I did have this line drawn. I was just watching carefully, and I was just kind of chopping. Didn't really make a third confirmation till you get to about right here. So when I saw this third confirmation, and one time I was playing with the channel being here, and I also was playing with the idea maybe the channel is up here, because I saw this overshoot, was looking for potential overshoot on this side to match, but it didn't happen. So even if it was here or here, it didn't really matter yet because prices weren't even there yet. This is what I saw. I saw a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. I'm thinking there's a potential second entry short failure. So I actually took this trade. And I'll say that this trade was a little risky because I was assuming it's going to be a failed second entry short, because first entry short, second entry short, it hasn't technically failed yet because it could still make another candle down and continue the second entry short downwards. So I didn't take the trade yet, but I did like that it bounced off the EMA and bounced off of this third confirmation ascending channel. So I left it alone. When this one closed and it barely broke above, but it showed that it was coming down, it didn't quite make it to the bottom. I thought I wanted to take a trade. Unfortunately, not unfortunate, I took the trade, but I'm not sure why NinjaTrader didn't have it marked. Or it was marked earlier, and I'm doing this review a little bit later in the day. But I took my trade right here at the top of these two, and I wanted to make sure I just had enough room to scalp out to the top. So it actually filled on this candle and it closed and it had a doji. That kind of gave me a little bit of pause. I was a little concerned that I might get stopped out down here. Actually, I had my stop below this double bottom right here. Then it flashed up and I was able to exit on this weird, not weird, but this inverted candle here. And prices moved up. There's another quick trade here. I will admit it's a little riskier just because when this candle flashed down, these three candles are all actually in, well, maybe not this one, it's broke slightly lower, but these candles are pretty much inside this big candle. I saw this as a failed secondary short and potential trap because people that went short here were thinking this is great. When this candle closed, it probably put it one tick below. They got filled, or potentially put it one tick below this guy. They got filled, and then here they're wondering if they're going to get stopped out, and then right here makes a double top, and they got stopped out here. So I didn't see this. I didn't see the trap clearly at the time, and I was just seeing this, and I was thinking, okay, I saw this potentially a failed secondary short is something I want to take a chance on. There was enough room to get to the top. But put my entry right here, as it'd be like 46.05, and I need to get out at 46.05. I need to get out 46.25, which is right about here, and 46.50. So it was enough room for me to quickly scalp out. I didn't want to push it any further, and I was able to scalp out on this candle. So moving on, prices were kind of chopping. They fall into this range, and they break out of this ascending beige-looking channel and start breaking lower. There was no real clear entry that I could see here to take advantage of this drop down. It was a kind of a really nice drop down. Unfortunately, there was no entry that I could see to have been able to take advantage of it. Breaks out, price tested low, doesn't quite make it. I did see like, new low here, first entry short, technically a second entry short failure here, because it comes back, it fails on this candle here as it moves back up, but I didn't really like this setup here because it looks a little bit, I'm unsure if it's actually going to try to hit some kind of resistance here, and I wasn't sure this was the top of the trading range at this point in time in real time. So I left it alone. Prices continue chopping. It's falling within this trading range now. I do see this new high, first entry long, second entry long. I also saw this as a new low, first entry short, second entry short, failure. So this is a failed second entry short and a second entry long. Both of them are confirmed now. The problem that I have with this trade is on the second entry short failure, excuse me, on the second entry short failure, it's forming kind of above the EMA, even though it closed below. And then the second entry long closed below the EMA, the signal bar closed below the EMA, and now it's kind of pushing back up. So even if I took this trade, I would be weary of if it would kind of run up to the top here and find some kind of resistance. So there was clearly enough room, but I just wasn't sure. And the EMA is flattening out, so I wasn't sure what I was looking at, if this was a safe trade or not, so I left it alone. Prices continue chopping. It's clearly within this range now. I see this failed second entry long, new high, first entry long, second entry long. Technically, it hasn't failed yet because it's a second entry long. This candle has moved down now, so it's kind of showing up that it is a failure. Unfortunately, it's the middle of this trading range, and the second entry long, although it closed below the EMA has a good signal bar, but the prices here feel a little congested. They're two side by side, so I wanted to wait for a confirmation lower high to be more certain that its prices are going to move down. The problem with the lower high is it's probably going to form somewhere around this region, not come up and then come back down. And that would leave me in danger of running into the bottom here of this trading range without enough room to scalp out. But it didn't, that problem never really came up for me because the lower high formed way down here and it flashed down. So that just kind of, the trade was, already made at that point. I didn't feel like I wanted to try to short after this lower high all the way down here because you have a lower high here, too far from the EMA, very strong bullish bar, excuse me, very strong bearish bar, but it's kind of just flashing down in the middle of nowhere now. I wasn't sure. I felt like the move has been made. It wasn't quite a clean setup to try to chase this. Prices were, there's like this super duper support right here where prices were having trouble breaking below this. I noticed that, but I didn't really see a good entry. It broke down a couple times and then flashed back up, moves back into the trading range. And after this overshoot down here, I was expecting probably an overshoot up here. It kind of barely made one, and it made a second entry long here, new high, first entry long, second entry long. Second entry long, this is the signal bar. It looks a little odd. The reason being is, okay, definitely there is a second entry long here. When you see this candle flashed up, and then toward the end, everybody got pushed down really hard and closed right here. So opened here, danced around, moved up, and it got slammed all the way back here at the last moment. And now this tiny little bar comes up. It made me a little bit nervous that if I took an entry one tick above here, this blue line, this blue channel blue range has proven to have some kind of resistance here. So I'm be buying into the top. I didn't like that. So also I noticed that this is the first break and it wants to test the recent high of this shortened trend channel going up. But this shortened channel coming down is also in place. So you don't know if it's going to make another attempt to test the lows before it tries to come up and test the highs. So I have conflicting information of, I think it wants to come up and test the highs, but I also think it might want to come down to test the local lows. Unfortunately, if it had just touched the EMA, it would have given me a little bit more confidence to go long in this setup because it would have ideally touched this EMA, closed a little bit lower, give me enough room to feel confident I'd be able to scalp out. So this just too many things going on. And I decided, well, I should just wait and just see what happens. Maybe it'll offer me a higher low confirmation. The higher low never shows up. It just kind of keeps going without me. That's okay because this was a little confusing. Prices continue moving up, then it corrects right back down, and then it kind of falls into this blue trading range, and it gets really choppy here. And this is toward the end of the day, again, the last 10 minutes where you see a bunch of candles, and it kind of goes into the close. So I was able to find two good, well, I was able to take two trades today, both for green. I feel okay about both. One of them is certainly a little bit more aggressive, but overall, it was interesting price action. It's kind of this weird looking end configuration, but overall was a big, maybe 16-point trading range mainly. So hopefully that was helpful.